Hi and welcome back to another video on the Barrett channel. So I've been in Thailand about 6 days now. I spent a little bit of time in Bangkok. I'm here in Pattaya now. I'll be going back to Bangkok tomorrow. And I've met up with my friend Tony. Tony spent many years in China, and you'll see some other videos on our channel where we've talked about that. But I've met up with him in Pattaya, and we just want to talk a little bit about our perceptions of Thailand and how it relates to China.
I'm much closer to China than the UK is. I'm just 2 hours away, and there is a hope that I can, when it opens up, I can just literally get back to China. It's really just to have a break from England, get some nice weather, and rest and recuperation. Mm-hmm. So Lee turning up was a nice surprise on his trip back from Africa.
Yeah, so the main reason I'm here is that we plan to travel around some Southeast Asian countries, me and Ollie, to bring some content. But before that, we were going to go to India, but because the UK and Indian government have had a bit of a spat, you can't now, as a British citizen, apply for the e-visa. And as we were in Italy, it would have been really expensive to stay in Italy while applying for our Indian visa, because it's pretty expensive in Europe at the moment. Then travel on to maybe Malaysia, Indonesia, possibly Singapore, Korea, Philippines, and then back to Thailand. And then I'm going to assess the situation about getting back into China, as of course I have my family in China, so I will be going back there. But right now it's not that easy to get back into China. So I'll assess the situation once I arrive back here in Thailand in about November time. But what I wanted to do today is chat with Tony, because I've just sort of observed some things being here in Thailand, and it very much reminds me of how Chinese cities were some sort of 15 to 17 years ago. Sort of being in Bangkok for a few days, it's very chaotic, it's very busy, it's quite a polluted city. I'm seeing quite a lot of homeless people who are living on the street, and I feel that's how sort of Chinese cities were some 15, 17 years ago. I don't know what you think about that.
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't really know how to elaborate. I think it's very much like I don't know the whole of China, but as far as Guangzhou is concerned, Bangkok is a bit like Guangzhou 17 years ago.
I totally agree with that, yeah.
Now, does that mean Bangkok will change?
Well, I think it will. I think, but again, a lot of that sort of, let's say, clean-up as being government driven. China held some big world events. They had World Expo, they've had the Olympic Games. Mm-hmm. So obviously they wanted to portray the right image.
Yeah, and they plan ahead as well.
And they plan ahead massively. Yeah. Now, whether that is the same in Thailand, you go back then and China's economy was much smaller, and the government have made massive steps to improve the economy, but they've invested a lot of money into the cities now. Yeah. Whether that'll happen here, I really don't know. I mean, I remember being in Guangzhou and seeing lots of people living on the street at that time when I first went to China.
Yeah, lots of disabled people.
Yeah.
And in fact, it wasn't always that safe for foreigners. When I went out there, bikes had only just been banned because some foreigners got killed by motorcycles, and they got banned in Guangzhou. I think around about 2007, 2006.
Oh, it wasn't uncommon for motorbikes to be riding on the pavement.
Yeah, that's right.
At that time, I've had a few close calls in Guangzhou.
But now they've reopened that policy, and in Guangzhou, I've seen them. Yeah.
But I mean, I just think generally it's changed a lot. They got rid of a lot of these sort of street sellers. They were making the pavements filthy and that. And there's still a few, but it's not like it used to be. But I see in Bangkok, you're walking around and everywhere there's people selling all manner of things, that very much reminds me of how it was. And I just, like you said,
I don't think, sorry to interrupt, I don't think Thailand should change too much?
No, I think it needs to improve slightly. I mean, I don't feel as safe in Bangkok as I do now Guangzhou. But 17 years ago,
yeah,
I didn't feel that safe in Guangzhou either. But
okay.
now I feel very, very safe in Chinese cities.
Right. So,
very safe.
Right. So, but if you came to Bangkok 17 years ago, would you have felt, you know, twice as unsafe as you feel today?
I don't know. It's
yeah. I know what you mean. So if you're become accustomed to that safety feeling, does it mean that every city that you go to and feel unsafe should change?
Not necessarily should change, but I think
I know you're interviewing me.
Yeah,
but
I think it's changed for the better.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, it's.
Would you feel safe if you went to California?
Probably not. No.
No.
I tell you what, though. But I mean, I've only been in Bangkok, 4 days, and I've already had somebody attempt to pickpocket me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm so aware, and it kind of puts you into a false sense of security living in Chinese cities because they are so safe. And I think that's one of a number of things. One, there's a lot of surveillance cameras.
Did you hit him? Or oh no, you can't hit family.
No,
you can't hit family.
I'm not.
Was it Ollie?
I'm not into fighting.
No.
The one, there's a surveillance camera, but I think in Chinese culture, that's part of it as well.
Yeah.
And in the big cities, people's lives have improved in China significantly over 17 years.
Yeah.
And I don't get that sense here. I get the sense here that it's still very hard for people.
Yes.
I mean, there are rich people in Bangkok, obviously you see that, but I think there's still way more people who are not.
Yeah.
You know, when I see a woman on the street living on the road with 2 young kids, that is like, I don't think that should happen in the year 2022. You know? And it kind of annoys me when I see how the US are happy to spend almost $1 trillion a year on weapons and war and military, instead of spending more on aid that will help these countries. But I think you've seen what America wants. They're obviously nervous about countries getting bigger and better than them, because that's exactly what's happened with China, and now you see what they're doing to China to try and keep them down.
You've twisted this conversation.
Yeah.
Really, from Bangkok
just,
and then to suddenly into America.
Just flow.
Right, okay,
you know?
so I just want to recap so I can catch up with you here. Thailand's never been invaded. It was never British colonial.
No, that's
although
right.
I don't know why they drive on the left, but I'm happy they do.
Yeah, interesting that one, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, maybe someone can tell us why they drive. Someone here told me, because the king was given a right-hand drive car, you know, years and years ago. I mean, how true that is, I don't know.
No, I don't know about that.
Yeah, so, they had the French down in Vietnam and further down, Singapore, and the British had, went further. So, but Thailand wasn't. But so now we've got to divert that conversation to.
No, just continue it however you want.
Well, you went on to America. I know you're going to have to edit to change this, but you went on to America and looking after the poor. I think the poor, whether it's a man on the street or a woman on the street, I've become accustomed to seeing both. And I feel just as sorry for the man as I do the woman now.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not trying to,
because in the Western world, we've got women want equal rights for everything, so much so that they don't want to do bricklaying. They don't want to be sort of like coal miners. They don't want the dirty jobs. They just want equal pay in the good jobs. So I think a lot of men around the country in the Western culture have started to say, right, well, you want equality, you've got equality. Equal amount of women prisoners, equal amount of people on the street are women, and it's kind of like a nurse. Now, what I mean by that is, you and I might go out there and see someone with a leg after a car crash hanging off, and we go, but a nurse will look at it and go, I've seen it every day.
Yeah, of course.
So they get toughened.
Yeah.
And now to seeing people sleeping on the streets and roughing it, man or woman or child, it happens all around the world. I saw it in the UK. And I was gobsmacked, especially in London.
But the occurrence of that in Western developed nations is far, far less than in countries like this. You know, there are homeless people in England, but there's a massive amount of help for those people if they seek it
Yes,
in the UK.
of course there is, yeah,
And my opinion is that sometimes the government help too much. I mean, you see in COVID, very few Chinese people were moaning, oh, we got no money. You know, within a week of lockdown in the UK, they're all screaming, oh, government needs to help us, government needs to help us. Because they don't save, you know. Asian cultures tend to save, whereas, you know, and it
well,
just...
Can I just interrupt there? I've been here 6 days. 10 days ago, I went to a job centre. A job centre is it's a place where you go to look for work. You can look online, but a job centre will have literally a bulk list of jobs that fit your categories, your experience, whatever. And they would do that for you. And that is run by the government all over the country.
In England?
In England, in England. So I went into the job centre 10 days ago in Fareham. All right, went through there, 4 security guards. Have you made an appointment, sir? You know, no. All right, sorry, can't come in. Right, and it's got like they've got sofas like this. So much money spent on the design. Yeah. But I managed to persuade them to let me go and talk to someone. Went and spoke to them and said, listen, I'm out of work. Now I am out of work, have been for some time. But I'm actually not looking for work in the UK because I knew I was going to leave. But I said, can you help me look for a job? Are you claiming benefit? No benefits. I'm supporting myself. Sorry, we can't help you. We can't help you unless you're claiming benefit.
It's crazy. But this is the thing with the UK.
Absolutely crazy.
We've cultured a benefit culture. You know, and
why would I look for work if I'm getting benefit?
Yeah,
thanks for that money. I won't look now.
I think it's crazy how, you know, we have families in the UK on the 3rd generation, and they've never worked because, you know, they claim benefits, and it just annoys me when you come to countries in Southeast Asia, and this is you only see this if you travel to those countries, where you see people who are here, and you'll get people who think they're hard up in the UK. They're moaning about everything, you know, it's so hard. Their hardship is nothing compared to people who have hardship in countries like here.
Yeah.
You know, you have kids here have nothing, and yet you'll have kids in the West who are like moaning because they can't have the latest pair of £100, you know, Nike trainers or whatever. Yeah. And I think that...
I knew an ex-serviceman, he had nothing, and he smashed a car window in front of a policeman so that he could go to prison, get fed, get accommodation.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's pretty bad.
You know, I've only ever claimed benefits once in my life, and I didn't like doing that. I didn't feel good doing that.
Yeah.
But I think it's far too easy.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have a safety net, but I think it's far too easy in the UK for families to adopt a culture where their sole income is benefits, and there's a lot of people who do that, you know, and I think that's, personally, I think that's wrong.
Right.
But you know,
so let's just backtrack now. You started to go on to America, and you was talking about weapons.
No, I was just saying, like, how there's all these problems, not only in American society, but in a lot of other countries. And, you know, I see America as sending billions and billions and billions of dollars of weapons to Ukraine. Now, surely, in my mind, that money would be better spent on helping poorer countries get out of the difficulties they're in.
Yeah.
You know, but that's never going to happen because, you know, you've got American economy which is so built around creating war and unrest around the world, you know.
I don't know how you felt it when I went back to the UK. I found that I was actually advised by a guy we both know, an American guy called Mike. He gave me a tip. He said, "Don't talk too much about China." Well, I couldn't help it. I did talk quite a bit about China, and I discovered my opinions and views of China. I was hated for them by friends and family. Yeah,
I felt exactly the same.
They all said I'm 100% wrong. Not one of them have ever been to China, but they all said I was wrong, in my opinion of how good China is today. Now, I was totally surprised. I've been in Thailand for 6 days, and I've spoke to, I don't know, maybe half a dozen foreigners, expats. Their opinions of China are even stronger than those back in the UK.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely. China is the most evil place on this planet. Now, these people here, it's a bit like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. These people are all expats in their late 50s, 60s, 70s, and they condemned my opinion of China really, really strongly, saying, how can you say that, like they wouldn't. I had to say to them, look, we don't need to fight about this. You don't need to fall out over this. It's just that I've lived there, you haven't.
Well, that's really interesting, Tony, because we've both lived there for some time.
Yeah.
And we've experienced it. We've both travelled fairly extensively around China.
Yeah.
And seen with our own eyes.
Yes.
Yet they think we're the ones that are wrong or brainwashed.
Yes.
Into thinking wrong thoughts.
Yeah.
And yet 99% of the people you talk to, well, have you been to China? Oh no, I haven't actually been there.
Yeah.
So they're consuming all their knowledge from media.
Yes.
And I suspect in most cases they just read headlines. They don't dig any deeper.
Yeah.
There's so many headlines I see in Western press that are so misleading. And then when you dig a little deeper, it's apparent that it's just bullshit. Now, the one example I've sort of recently, you've had American media say, China is so aggressive in the South China Sea. Well, if America sails like fleets of warships, I mean, the clue's in the name, the South China Sea,
That's what I said last night.
Yeah, they sail fleets of warships through. And then China does something to kind of respond or retaliate, and straight away it's, oh, look how aggressive China are. How many thousands of miles away is the South China Sea from America?
Yeah.
What would be, just think of the scenario, right, that China go, okay, we're going to build some military bases in Mexico, and we're gonna put some nuclear weapons there.
Yeah.
Do you think America go, oh, that's okay, no problem?
Wouldn't happen,
of course
would
they
it?
wouldn't.
No.
And the South China Sea is 3,000 miles away from the States or something like that?
So where have America got bases?
Where haven't they got bases?
I know. Where have they? Okay, we know they've got.
Japan, Korea.
Yeah. Marshall Islands.
Yeah.
I think Australia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, in Australia they say we haven't got bases there. They use Australian bases.
Yeah.
And put their American troops and missiles in there.
And then a few months ago,
China
signed up some deal with the Solomon Islands.
Okay.
And America are going absolutely mental about it,
Yeah.
Absolutely mental about
There's
it.
an island called Ronald Reagan Missile Island, something like that, isn't there?
Yeah. There's literally, they've got bases all around the globe.
Next to the Ronald Reagan Missile Island, there's another island. I think it's called Bayou or something like this. And on that island, it's just a dump of metal and rubbish and everything. Everyone's shit goes. It's a mile long.
Yeah.
The people that live on that dump, it is literally a dump site. The people that live there, they go across on a boat every day, every morning. They go across to the Ronald Reagan Island, where the Americans are living a life of luxury. They clean it, they cut the grass, they water the grass, and they just clean it, and every night they go back to their dump.
Yeah.
And that's the local people who used to live on those islands before America took it over. But that's okay. Let's not talk about that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you talk about the expats here, because a lot of these people you speak to are very anti-China.
Yeah.
They're kind of almost like don't see the
China built a
problems America have caused around the world.
China built a wall to keep people out.
Yeah.
Not because they wanted to climb over their own wall and get to other countries. China don't attack places.
China don't. No, I mean China are very sort of strategic, really. Their weapon, if you want to call it a weapon, is doing business. You've got them that they're building high-speed rail in Thailand. That'll massively improve the economic fortunes of Thailand. They've already built a railway to Laos, which Thailand are already benefiting from because they're getting freight on it. China are all about it. I see the Western America, they've gone into countries, especially in Africa, and they've raped those countries of the resources and give nothing back.
Yeah.
Whereas China are going, yeah, of course we want something, but we're going to build your infrastructure. Now, the plan they have, it's not perfect by any means, but I perceive it's way better. China thinking, well, if we can improve the economy in Thailand by building them infrastructure and getting them railways and good infrastructure, then their economy will be better. They'll buy more stuff from us. So they think long term, and I think the West doesn't do that. The West has done nothing, only things to benefit themselves.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's, I've got to agree. Capitalism, I've got to be very careful on the subject of capitalism and socialism and communism, but I think I'm right in saying in a Western country, capitalism gets to a point where the wealthy tell the government what to do.
Oh, big time. Yeah, big time.
Because they are now more wealthy than government. In China, as far as capitalism goes, they get wealthy so much, but they don't decide what the government tells it. The government, and that's the communistic point is where the government are saying to the wealthy people, we are still in charge. And especially in America, the government is not in charge.
Yeah, the politicians have no...
We all know that Google, Facebook,
the big tech companies, the big military companies and the big medical companies control everything.
Control everything.
Yeah, that will never happen in China. And no. I think actually, I don't think communism actually exists now. I think
maybe
China, I describe it as a capitalist socialist society.
Yeah.
Because if you look at some of there was a big thing about crackdown on tech companies in China recently. But all that's happened is that the government says, okay, we're okay with you making lots of money, but you need to put a portion of that money back into society. So many of these tech companies have set up funds now which build houses, they provide for schools and all this kind of thing. So it's like, yeah, we'll allow you to make so much money, but you can't have all that money for a few people. You've got to give back to society. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But yet they were criticised heavily by the West. Controlling
that
corporates.
criticism is also down to jealousy.
Yes.
If you look at Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, they've got all the shops that you have in New York, Paris, London. Everything that those cities have, the metropolitan cities, they have that now in China.
Yeah.
And there's an immense jealousy from the Western people.
I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, lo and behold, it's peaceful.
Yeah. Oh, God, I mean, from a society point of view, China is, I feel, way better than Western countries. Western countries now have so many social problems going on.
Yeah.
Okay, not everybody's going to agree with everything in China, but personally, I think the government generally work to better people's lives. You look at communication, it's efficient and cheap. You look at transport, it's efficient and cheap.
Yeah.
God, gas and electricity in China are probably 20% of what they are in the West. Yeah. So all these, and I think this is part of the issue. So American companies have gone into other countries and go, okay, well, we're buying up all the gas industry or all the oil industry or all the communication industry. Then they just charge what they want to fill the pockets of American corporates. China didn't allow them to do that. China will never sell off their electricity companies to some American corporate or their communications infrastructure to a European corporate company. That'll never happen in a million years.
Well, Elon Musk opened a factory, I think, just outside Shanghai. And he has said, I think he said it under his breath, but he has said it on, that factory's working twice as better as it is. Yeah. Well,
very interestingly, if you ever get a chance on Netflix, there's a documentary called American Factory.
Yeah.
And that is about a windscreen manufacturer who sets up a factory in the States. And it documents all the problems they have with employing Americans to work there and having a factory in America.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't get the efficiency nowhere near
Absolutely.
what the Chinese factory was.
Well, some people are going to they're going to say, oh, that's because the Chinese, they're forced to work harder.
Yeah, but they're
longer.
not.
But they're not.
They want to.
Yeah.
Most Chinese I've spoke to who work in factories want to work overtime because for them it's all about earning more money. But this is what makes me laugh when I hear, you know, politicians in England, America, Europe, oh, the Chinese have stole all our jobs. They haven't stole the jobs. Most of those companies in the West chose to move to China because the labour was cheaper and it allowed them to make higher profits to fill the pockets of the shareholders.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's all about in the West, filling the pockets of a tiny minority.
Yeah.
Whereas in China, they have these policies called common prosperity, where, they'll allow wealthy people to exist, but they don't want that to be at the complete expense of the less well-off people. And they've still got a long way to go, but personally, I think they're moving in the right direction as far as... I feel Western society is moving in the direction where the small percentage of elite rich people are just getting richer and richer. And
well, we've heard that saying for
they
years.
keep the normal people down.
That's
because that's how they earn the money.
Well, I think on a personal level, I think anyone who makes it will keep some people down. When I was a manager, I didn't want my deputy manager to overtake me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't badmouth him, but I'd make sure he didn't attend some meetings. And you know, and I think everyone has that instinct to sort of like, you know, as kind of like a preservation thing. I've got where I've made it, so I can understand that. But it's when they influence other people to screw someone else's life up so they can't get to you. You know, like if you were doing particularly well in the subject and I was getting close to you, so you tell the police that maybe I'm not paying my rent or I'm not, or that kind of thing. And that's what the wealthy are doing now. Yes, they push them down to make sure they can't, and they try to blackmail politicians to change rules and regulations so they can't catch up.
But they do blackmail them. I mean, that's what lobbying's all about.
Well, I did a video about that.
There's I saw a video on YouTube about donations to senators, and you look at, you know, it's literally the weapons companies, the drugs companies, and the tech companies.
Yeah.
It's hundreds of millions of dollars a year supporting, you know, the senators' campaigns and bankrolling them.
You only mentioned one company there.
Yeah.
The drug companies and the
tech companies and the military companies.
Just say the Clintons.
Yeah. but it's so obvious that if you're a senator and you're receiving, I don't know, $2 million a year from a weapons company, you're not going to pass legislation that harms those kind of companies, are you? And this is exactly why the healthcare is in, because the senators won't vote to have like universal healthcare, because the big drugs and healthcare companies will lose billions of dollars, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and I've got a friend in China. It's actually Ollie's friend. He broke his hand in the US, and he didn't go to hospital because he knew he couldn't afford what the bill would be. Tens of thousands of dollars it would have been.
Yeah.
I've had cancer treatment in China, and it was a fraction of what it would have been in the US, a fraction.
Lee said to me just before we started this, he said, Tone, I do understand, when as I get older, you know, maybe I do need to live in England because of, you know, the medical side of things, you know, we fall sick. And I said to him, if you lived in the UK, you'd be dead.
Yeah.
Because when COVID was on, cancer victims...
It's 3 to 6 months before you could get seen.
Longer than that,
yeah,
mate. So many have died. Can I add one thing on this?
Yeah, of course you can.
I know it's a diverse...
No, that's okay.
I watched a documentary, and in that documentary, I just want some people to be aware, especially over there in America. On the 5th of April, 2009, Obama made a speech. And he said he's going to make all the efforts possible. He wants to turn this world into a nuclear-free world. And he then went on to spend more money on nuclear weapons than any other president ever.
Well, I find this with America. They say one thing and do another. It's like
Obama.
They you know, America will say, oh, we're the, you know, the nation of the free world, free trade. Well, that's not really playing out with China now, as China are surpassing them. Oh shit, we need to do so. It's not a free market anymore. You know, so it's all about, I feel, America trying to protect their hegemony. Now, I'd love, if I'm alive in 20 years' time, it will be very interesting. I think we're living in a very pivotal moment of the world. You've got, you know, America have pushed Russia much closer to China, which is an unintended consequence of what they've done.
America's pushed Russia closer to Ukraine.
Yeah, now,
with the help of Europe.
Russia and China are going to be a massive world influence over the coming years. It's inevitable, you know, that they're going to grow. You're going to have Iran, who are also getting more friendly, a pretty big country. I think the next 10 years is going to be extremely interesting to see how things develop.
In the unlikely event that these YouTube videos ever get to Chinese mainstream media, my advice to Chinese politicians, if I could ever give any, would be to say, spend as much money as you can afford to infiltrate Western media, because the people in Western countries have all got the wrong opinion of what China's like.
They really have, yeah.
They really have. Most people that I've spoke to now, Western people, are afraid of China and its military capabilities, are afraid of China and its expansion, but it's not attacking anyone. Yes, it's buying up land because Westerners are so bloody greedy.
Well, that's because they're happy to sell it, you know.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But if China could invest money to get Chinese people to, I don't know,
to get the message out, basically.
Get the message out there to Western people.
Yeah, I right now in the UK, we technically haven't got a prime minister, and there's a battle going on between two. And I hear, you know, these politicians saying, oh, China is a threat to our way of life. Thinking, for God's sake, you know, the UK is what, 3,500 miles away from China. How can China possibly be a threat to people's way of life in the UK? How do they arrive at that ridiculous statement? You know, it's just literally scaremongering, isn't it?
And we're talking about a country that's got more illegal immigrants than we have military forces.
Yeah, it just blows my mind when I hear statements like that. You know, you hear Liz Truss, oh, we need to get tough on China. Tough on China? Why? You know, and then you hear these other politicians, oh, we need to cut China off altogether. So yeah, where are you going to buy 90% of your stuff, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, it's just, they come out with these most ridiculous, but it's all like stirring the pot, you know, rumour mongering.
What was the Harry Enfield characters? Waynette and Wayne?
Yeah, Waynetta.
Waynetta and
Kevin
and Waynetta, was it?
Something like that.
Yeah, okay, so just imagine that's, let's say, a typical family, and yeah, they've got all their problems in the house, and you know, the kids, and the sink's full of rubbish, they haven't got jobs, they're smoking dope, and they're worried about China.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, isn't it?
You know, okay, so most families in the UK are not like Waynetta, but they're worried about China when you've still got to pay your gas, electric, and water bills. You know, your post is getting stolen before it gets to you. You know, you can't water the grass. You know, it's all the sorts. The shops are closed. Yeah. Everything's going up in price. The cheapest food you can buy is chocolate, so you buy lots of that, and Coca-Cola. And you're worried about China?
Yeah,
what's the point?
Absolutely nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
In my eyes, China propose no threat to the UK or Europe whatsoever.
Let's say we can close China down. Right, okay, so now, oh shit, I can't buy any clothes, can't buy any shoes. And no one will open a factory in our country.
Yeah, you know, people think that, you know, goods are made from China, finished goods. There are literally so much raw materials and components that only China make.
Yeah.
You know, it's just absolutely mad. Anyway, we've gone on for quite long enough. We're on 37 minutes.
Okay.
I think that's long enough. Maybe a couple of edits bring it down to about 30 minutes. But yeah, it's been really interesting. I'm sure we'll continue this conversation when we're off camera, because it's we have very similar views. But thanks for joining us. If you do like the video, give it the thumbs up. Tony's got a channel. It's a new channel. He's trying to get it established. So go and have a look at his channel. I'll leave a link in the description. But as always, for now, take care.